You've probably heard of a lot of big underdog stories throughout the history of Rocket League. The most famous of these is the Peeps' journey to beat G2 in the finals and win DreamHack Montreal. However, this story that I'm about to tell you is not that. It's a story that you've most likely never heard of from a team that you probably didn't even know existed. This is the biggest underdog story in Rocket League that you've never heard of. Imperial Esports League is the biggest semi-pro league in the European Rocket League scene. It houses players from Diamond 1 and all the way up to the bubble level players. Many famous players have participated in this league, such as Fusia, Sir Classy, Axel Toss, and many more. We won't be focusing on any big names today. Instead, we will be focusing on an unknown team. Entering the 4th season of IEL saw many new teams, due to the large expansion that they were undergoing. One of these new teams was Bad Karma Esports, who was unestablished in the Rocket League scene. There was no expectations for them to succeed, as they were placed down as low as 9th after just the first week of play. Even after half of the season had passed, they were still predicted the same as they was in that very first week, 9th place. Now in IEL, you don't actually have to finish first to win the league. Instead, you have to make it into the top 6 of your conference to be given a playoff spot. The playoffs is a double elimination tournament of the 12 best teams out of the total 32 in the league. The reason that you have to be top 6 is because there are 2 conferences. So theoretically, you could be the 12th team in the league and still win, but it had never even been close to happening. All of this meant that the Bad Karma team was looking like they weren't going to make playoffs, but it was still possible. They'd have to win the majority of their remaining games to do it, so they weren't ruled out just yet. It did all seem lost though, because people still saw no spark from them. In addition to this, they were the lowest ranked team in the league by MMR, and so nobody was expecting them to make playoffs. They had a tough few weeks to just latch on to playoffs, with some difficult teams to face. After this halfway point, they were on a record of 6-6, which isn't bad, but you need a record plenty in the positive to make it. So, how did they do? Could they pull off this amazing underdog story and make playoffs? Well, they lost to Throne Gaming, a team that many believed would win the entire league, so there's not much of a surprise there. The following week, they were disqualified from the game against No Hope, putting yet another loss on their record. And to make matters even worse, they were swept by Deja Vu the week after that, yet another difficult team. Now at a record of 9-9, they had 3 weeks left. There was still a chance, but they'd have to win every single series remaining. The issue was that they were yet to face the top team in their conference. Insanity. This was a huge game for Bad Karma. Winning this would give them the chance to make playoffs and truly instill fear into their opponents. Insanity were 16-2 at this point, accumulating an impressive 7 more wins than the Bad Karma side. However, that didn't matter to this story's protagonists. No matter who they faced, they would always give it their all and bring a good challenge to the game. And this time, when they needed it the most, it finally paid off. They defeated the best team in the division 3-1 and finally showed some spark to make playoffs last minute. They won another 4 games in the remaining period before playoffs, which left 1 game remaining. Unfortunately for Bad Karma, they sadly lost to Redwater, destroying their hopes of making playoffs and just becoming another average side in the long list of IEL's history. Although this wasn't the end of their legendary tale. You see, a team I mentioned earlier, Throne Gaming, actually got disqualified from playoffs. The IEL has rules stating that a team must allow their sub to play a certain amount of games in order to allow everybody a reasonable chance to play, which Throne Gaming failed to follow. This ultimately led to the next team in line being allowed a chance to compete in the playoffs. The next team in line was indeed Bad Karma, who managed to pull off one hell of an underdog story to go from a team of a 10-10 record and then winning their remaining games to make playoffs, even if it did require another team's demise. Almost every team in IEL can only hope to make playoffs and no further. Despite 12 teams entering playoffs, there is only ever really 6 or so teams truly contending for the title, which obviously was not Bad Karma, given their struggle to even make it into playoffs, never mind win the entire season. At this point, everybody expected them to go out first round, because they had such a difficult run to make throughout the entire tournament. Their first series was against the Warhawks, the third best team during league play. However, they had managed to beat them once in league play with an intense 3-2 score. It was certainly manageable for the side, should they continue their past track record. To ensure that they make this game as doable as they can, the team that made up Bad Karma, Kiers, Superman and Nathan, and their sub Doomhammer, all met up in person to play the tournament. They were determined to go as far as they could, even though everybody else assumed that they wouldn't make it past even the first round. But this mentality seemed to work wonders, because as it turns out, they miraculously bested Warhawks 3-1. Now, whilst this may be only the first round, a third of the teams in playoffs get eliminated in this round, so to make it out of that was a great feat to secure Bad Karma as one of the 8 best teams of the season. After this game, a huge stroke of luck came. You see, Bad Karma were placed into the second round against Throne Gaming, who we already established forfeited the playoffs. So, after winning only one series, Bad Karma went straight to the upper semi-finals. Winning this would put them into the upper finals of the competition, and should they win every series remaining, they'd be a mere 3 series away from taking the title home. Obviously, most still saw this as extremely unlikely. This is due to them only winning one series against a team that they already beat in league play, when people were confident that they wouldn't win. They may have made it far, but they hadn't convinced anybody of getting any closer to the title, especially when they were up against Primal Esports, the team with the greatest record throughout the entire season, 21-3. Bad Karma's pitiful 14-10 paled in comparison to Primal's immaculate consistency at the top. The predictions had them losing and faith in them was still low. This all may be true, but it's still vital to remember that Bad Karma had subverted all expectations this playoffs and the tail end of league play as well. So, when it came to the real test against a team that was second in predictions to make the grand finals, could they manage to continue pulling off these miracles? Well, I wouldn't be making this video if they didn't. To everybody's surprise but themselves, they defeated Primal Esports 3-1, which was Primal's largest defeat since the first week of the season. Suddenly, the opinion of the IEL community had shifted. People were starting to believe that Bad Karma had a shot at actually winning it all. And with the underdog story that it could be, they quickly became the fan favourites to do it. A victory against Primal led the boys in black and red to the upper finals. This wasn't the end of it though, because there is still a grand finals after that round, where the teams fighting in the lower bracket get a chance to play the winner of the upper finals in the grand finals, and see who gets crowned victorious. There was still a very large obstacle in the way: their competition. The opponent in the upper finals and teams standing in their way from making the upper finals was none other than Deja Vu. Deja Vu may have been 6th in the conference, but people still believe that they'd win due to replacing a couple of their players with an updated roster and having already beaten Bad Karma earlier in the season. This updated roster brought the side from a team far away from making playoffs to the highest voted team to win the entire thing before playoffs even began. It was Underdog versus Underdog and Clash of the Titans to see who will go down to the lower bracket. This was inevitably going to be their hardest challenge yet, and the end result of the series reflected that. It was the closest series that the playoffs had seen, and both teams were playing with everything that they could. Finishing the series, one side came out with a close 4-3 victory over the other to clutch a placement in the grand finals. Following the demands of the fans watching the game live, Bad Karma was the winner of the series. The title wasn't theirs yet, however, because they still had the grand finals to play. Their competitor was going to be either Deja Vu or Primal, who were fighting it out and battling in the lower final. These two were very good sides that were still determined to prove the original predictions correct. The two teams played to discover who would have one more shot at beating a once average side. It turned out to be yet another close 4-3 game, but this time Deja Vu were not on the wrong end of the result. The grand final would be a best of 7 series consisting of Bad Karma and Deja Vu. With around 4 months of the season having passed, there was a single series remaining to be played. One that would announce the ultimate team of that season. With the way that this video has gone thus far, I'm sure that you can imagine who won. Bad Karma bested Deja Vu with a 4-1 scoreline, cementing themselves as the greatest team of the season and the biggest underdog story in IEL history. Most of the time, the winners are quite predictable, but this was not one of those occasions. This was a winner that nobody expected until they were a mere 3 series away from winning it all. Bad Karma was a group of unlikely heroes, but one that showed us that no matter who you are, you must never give up. No matter how impossible it may seem, even if you need to clutch onto a bit of luck that comes your way, you give it your all. And if you do, then maybe one day you too can become the best.